Hey, amazing people, my name is Wade Patterson, and I want to welcome you to the very first episode of my new YouTube series, Exploring Creativity. So this series is all about the creative process and how artists create. I'm a filmmaker here in Los Angeles, and I work on many film and TV projects throughout the year, but I also work on my own stuff. And so I thought maybe the best way to start this series was to talk about my film, Grief Monster. It's a short horror I shot this past summer during the pandemic. And that meant that we had to socially distance. So we only had one crew member, me, we only had one actor on set. It was a very unique challenge, and we had to find very creative ways to get through this process. So I want to give you 4 tips on how to shoot a short film during a pandemic. At the beginning of this year, I was living in Los Angeles and working freelance gigs on indie film projects. Last year, I had the opportunity to shoot an original series for Snapchat called Protect and Serve. And this year was looking like I would have even more opportunities like this. But I was also working on my own ideas, telling my own stories. A short documentary I made about homelessness in the tunnels beneath Vegas got over 1 million views on YouTube. But this script was what it was all building to. Disharmony, a feature horror film I'd been developing for 2 years. Writing and rewriting, casting, getting all the moving parts together. Hi, I'm Wade.
Hi, I'm Allison.
And
we're making a movie!
At the end of last year, we ran a successful crowdfunding campaign to raise some of the budget. And after years of work, we started shooting in March. We spent 2 amazing days getting some incredible footage, and I felt like things were finally lining up. But then, a worldwide pandemic. Los Angeles was on lockdown. Restaurants were closed, and the film industry shut down overnight. Like so many people, my career and my dreams just stopped. So I got in my car and drove back to Mississippi. I was trying to escape. I wasn't running away from the pandemic. I was running away from a lack of purpose. Years of work amounted to nothing, and I was lost. I laid in bed for days, uncertain of what to do. I tried to do some things to get out of the rut. Shooting some cool footage, getting out in nature, watching lots of Netflix. But I couldn't distract myself from this deep sense of being adrift. I needed to get back to work. I had to do something. So I reached out to a friend, Jake Milton. We'd worked on several projects in the past, and I'd forced Jake to do some difficult things as an actor. But he was just as ready to do something as I was. We met up and talked about what that could be. But it was proving difficult to find the right idea. I was still stuck. In our conversations, Jake and I kept circling around the idea of loss, and I really wanted to explore the horror genre, but due to the pandemic, we agreed that we didn't really want anyone else on set. This created some very big issues, and I knew before I ever sat down to write that I needed to work within these constraints to create something terrifying. But how? It would be difficult to do a great deal of dialogue because we didn't have a dedicated sound person, and it would also be challenging to show Jake interacting with anyone since there were no other actors. So how could we create a compelling story with so many limitations? The number one rule when writing a screenplay is show, don't tell. So I began thinking about visual ways to communicate, and suddenly it all locked into place. What if there was a creature in the house who communicated only through drawings? All of the conversations, all of the ideas, all of my experience from the last few months just came together. I started writing, and within 2 hours I had a draft. And the main prop in our film only required some white paper and crayons. Very budget friendly. But prepping for the film was not without its challenges. I had to do props, set dressing. Jake even had to do some plumbing to stop a leak in the bathroom where we had some of our lights. And since I was the entire crew and Jake was the entire cast, we were about to hit some rough terrain. All right, I'm gonna strike this and see what the color looks like. Ooh, that's a nice yellow color. I like that a lot, actually. Yeah, so we get a nice yellow color shining into the hallway now. I'm gonna break it up with the blinds and pull them down. I was having to move lights around from one side of the house to the other. And I didn't have a low enough tripod for some of the shots, so I was having to balance my camera on books. But one of the toughest things to shoot was a point where Jake gets grabbed and pulled across the living room. We shot it over and over and over again and tried different approaches, but it just wasn't working. We had scheduled 4 nights of shooting originally, but some of the shots like this one required way more time than we expected. If we had a full crew, it would be simple, but I was having to hold the camera in one hand while I dragged Jake with the other, and we had to take constant breaks for me to recover. The worst part was that the shots we tried weren't working. It was very frustrating, and finally I decided to move on. We finished getting the rest of our shots, and I actually had to come back and do pickups on this scene. It helped to edit the footage together and then decide what was missing. The solution was to break up the original shot into multiple shots and make it feel more frenetic. So this became this. Although the final result isn't exactly what I had in mind for this moment, it still conveys the intensity that I intended, and the music really cleans up our mess. And this was just one of many challenges we faced every shoot day. But that doesn't mean we didn't have fun on set.
Think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away.
Can't have that. Action.
Baby, don't hurt me. Ooh, don't hurt me. Ow, no more. What is love?
One of the incredible things about filmmaking is that you can't really do it alone. You have to have other people. Although the film doesn't have any dialogue in it, I found rehearsal to be very important. At one point, we were just walking through the first scene in the closet, and Jake is just supposed to pull down a box and find his mother's necklace behind it. But in rehearsal, we ad-libbed this moment where he looks in the box and finds something. It wasn't in the script, but I loved it and felt like we needed a prop for this. So I went home and dug up an old Beanie Baby. I thought it was a nice, sentimental beat that really strengthened the beginning, and I would never have incorporated it without Jake's insight. Another huge thing for me is feedback. So I showed the rough cut to a few friends and family members without color grading or music and got their input. We shot a different opening scene where Jake's character is packing up the kitchen and he finds his mother's funeral program. It was supposed to be a visual way to show his loss in the film, but everyone thought that the next scene shot was so striking that it was the best starting point. I was hesitant at first because I had always envisioned the film opening this way, but that's why you have to get used to killing your darlings. If it doesn't serve the story or takes away from the dramatic impact, you have to cut it. My sister Catherine did all the incredible drawings in the film, and although they look childlike, it was a bit of a process to find the right style, and I think she nailed it. Although we didn't have any crew on set, we did have several people lending their expertise in post. Chris Lott composed an incredible score for the film. Music is so important to horror, and once we had Chris's score laid in, it just took everything to a new level. And finally, we had Amanda P.H. Bennett doing the sound design. She added cool things like creaks and doors opening, and added to the overall creepy atmosphere of the film. She did an excellent job. So now the film is done and you can watch it here. I appreciate you guys watching this first episode, and if you want to see more content like this, subscribe to my channel and explore the creative process with me. Thank you so much, and keep creating, guys.